Okay, so now I assume that you all watched my last video, my backpacking trip to Dolly Sods with Restless Outdoors and Outdoors 55. It was going to be a YouTube collaboration video that didn't exactly start off as planned. It was definitely a very sketchy trip to start off with, and I didn't explain it very well in the video. I actually lost a good bit of GoPro footage, and I ended up not filming hardly any on the last day because it just rained like crazy and my GoPro was dead. I just filmed an outro and pretty much didn't explain a lot of things that I really wanted to talk about and elaborate on. So this video is going to cover, pretty much the story of how I got lost at Dolly Sods, the reasoning behind that, some of the things I should have done, some of the things that I did right, and it's going to tie in with all the irony of the unfolding of events during that weekend. So just sit back, relax. This might be a long story, but it's a pretty good one, I think. Okay, so let's just start right at the beginning, and I urge you to watch this video all the way through because I might not explain things until the end of the video that have very important meanings. But anyway, so we were talking about doing another YouTube meetup, and a lot of people couldn't make it. So it ended up being Jason Helmendaler, Meerkat from Meerkat Hiking, Outdoors 55, and Restless Outdoors that we were planning on going on this trip. I live within an hour of Meerkat. We had planned that I was going to drive to his house and I was going to ride down with him. So we had been exchanging messages in a group chat. We had discussed that we were going to meet at the Bear Rocks trailhead. We were going to start at Bear Rocks. A couple people were going to get there early on in the day, hiking about a mile or so and set up camp. So anybody that came in late could still hike in and, set up camp and find everybody early on. Day 2, we were going to hike all the way down to Lion's Head and camp down there in the nice pine forest, and then hike out together on Sunday. So the original plan is that we were going to meet at Bear Rocks Trailhead. Meerkat had told me later on, sometime after that him and Adam were working on a route, to get down to Lion's Head and whatnot. They had posted maps and things on the group chat, which were just a bunch of green with like waypoints, GPS coordinates that I really didn't look at all. I had been to Dolly Sods 3 times previously. I've done nearly every single trail in Dolly Sods. I had never been to Bear Rocks Trailhead. It's the most northeastern-most trailhead, and that section of Bear Rocks, I've actually done some of Bear Rocks Trail. That was one of the only parts I've never been to in Dolly Sods. So I was feeling really confident. I didn't need to look at the map. Plus, I was riding with Meerkat anyway. He planned the trip. Okay, so Friday, I have all my stuff packed. I am ready to go. I'm about to walk out the door. I would go over to my phone on the charger, pull it off the charger so it's fresh, and look at it, and Meerkat is sick. He actually got really sick, ended up having to go to the ER. Well, he tells me he's got a bail, he can't do it. So I'm like, oh man, I'm ready. I'm about on my way to his house at this point. So I immediately get back on the internet, print out some old school paper maps. I've been down there 100 times. I know exactly how to get there. No problem. I'll hike in Bear Rocks. This will be not a problem at all. So I drive down there and I get to what I believe is Bear Rocks Trailhead. There's tons of people at the trail. There's actually like 6 people, none of which could tell me if this was Bear Rocks Trailhead. There was a bunch of teenagers there. There was another hiker that had just walked up the trail. So I talked to the hiker and asked him, hey, is this Bear Rocks Trail? And he said, well, this is Bear Rocks. He pointed to the big rock outcropping and said, this is Bear Rocks. I just came from the trail down the road, and I said, oh, okay, well, is that Bear Rocks Trail? Because it didn't have a kiosk or anything. I've been to several trailheads at Dolly Sods, and they're all nicely labeled with nice kiosks, with maps, and this one didn't really have that. But I asked him, was that Bear Rocks Trail you were on? And he said, no, I think that was Beaver Dam Trailhead. Which is the trail just south of Bear Rocks. So I'm like, okay, this is probably it. I walk in a couple feet, and there's a big sign that says Bear Rocks something. Anyway, so I'm thinking this is probably it. I can clearly see that there's a trail that goes to the south of bare rocks. It actually is headed straight west, just like on the map, just like it appears. So I get on this trail, and it's a pretty sketchy trail. I'm immediately, as you probably saw, talking to the camera. I'm not sure if I put it in the video or not, that I was a little bit worried that people weren't going to be able to find this in the dark, because it looked more like a deer trail. It was kind of established at first, but it was just kind of overgrown. It wasn't your typical Dolly Sods trail, because Dolly Sods doesn't have like blazes on trees and whatnot. You basically just have to go off of the fact that they're really established. A lot of the harder places have like rock cairns and areas to help you, find your way. So I start heading down into kind of a mucky bog area, which is typical Dolly Sods. And then I got pine trees on the left and right of me, and I kind of go through a valley, and I go up to your quintessential Dolly Sods, plain. Just absolutely gorgeous. The sun is just pink. It's probably 8 o'clock or so. It's just gorgeous. I'm filming a bunch. I'm running back and forth to get the camera. When I turn the camera off, I'm literally running down the trail just with excitement. I wanted to get to the guys before it was dark, so I could, have time to set up and just, not have to worry about putting my headlamp on and finding everybody in the dark. So I get up on this bald, and I'm just taking this trail, which is pretty established. Get to a point where I can see another pine tree section. It's starting to come out of the bald, and I can't find the trail anymore at that point. At that point, it just stops completely, and that's when I knew, or I really was pretty sure, that this is not the right trail. I'm definitely above, Bear Rocks Trail. I got the map out and looked at it, and I can see in the section of road ends, and it curves like this, and I was parked right here. Well, the trail on the map doesn't start till down a little ways, so I knew that this isn't right. This is probably a really good, nice, established deer trail that I've been following, so I got to turn around. At this point, I had been walking / running for a good while, maybe a half hour to an hour, and I mean running too, so I gained a lot of ground. I probably went at least a mile. So I'm like, okay, I gotta turn around. I gotta get back to my truck before dark so I can get that trail, and I'll be hiking Bear Rocks in the dark to find these guys. So I turn around at that point, and I immediately cannot find the trail. I just cannot find it. I mean, I just was on it. I probably went 10 feet this way, 10 feet that way, looking for another trail, and I can't even find the one I came in on. So I start just going back in the direction I came from, keeping the sun, perspectively behind me so that I know I'm heading east. And there's deer trails that are just crossing in and out. So I pretty much just started running in the direction that I came from, because it's getting dark, and I really wanted to be somewhere where I knew where I was to camp for the night. So I start going and going, and I'm off the trail. And Dolly Sods, if you've ever been there, it's these meadows, these open fields aren't just nice grass. They're very there's like big shrubs, big like 2 to 3 foot high bushes with really stiff, prickly, not thorns, but just stick like shrubbery that I'm walking through, and it tore my legs up pretty good. I got lots of scratches and whatnot on it, but I'm going through here, and I'm losing sunlight fast. It is well past 8 o'clock now. The sunlight is very, very low. It's getting darker by the minute, and that's when I really started noticing that, the sun that was supposed to be behind me is a little bit to my right. Like, I'm starting to lose my heading a little bit. And that was because I had to do a lot of bobbing and weaving. I had to go around bushes and trees and rocks. It definitely just wasn't a straight shot from where I came from. So I'm doing my best to just gain my ground. Even though I knew I was probably, maybe 20 to 50 feet off of the trail, I knew I was going in pretty much the right direction. So I'm losing sunlight, and it's getting bad. And then when it starts getting really dark, I start really trying to look for that opening. Like when when I go down over the hill, there should be pines on both sides and an opening to where I can see the trailhead. I could see the cars, in theory. So I'm just going and going, and I'm going left and I'm going right, which isn't smart, but I still was maintaining my eastward heading. And it's just dark. It is damn near pitch black. And the moment that I thought, okay, I have to set up camp, I am not getting out of here right now. I'm not going to be able to find my way, because I did finally come over the hill to where I see some trees, and there was no clearing. I am in the wrong spot, basically. As soon as I get this thought that I'm camping here tonight, I immediately just go into this 15 by 15 foot area that's just a beautiful campsite, a pine tree, some other type of tree, and flat, like low grass area that's smooth. I set up my tent, super rocky area, but all my stakes go in, and it's funny, like perfect pitch on the tent. I mean, I didn't get to really enjoy it in the night. Nobody got to see it, but one of the best pitches I've ever had, so that made the night slightly better. But I didn't film a lot during, the time I was trying to get out of there. And I did get a bit frantic a little bit. I was slightly embarrassed of posting, this video. But the reality of it is these things happen. If you're not prepared for them, they can turn out really, really bad. I did have a compass on my watch that I was following. I had GPS on my phone, but it wouldn't load the map at that point, so it really was not good, which is my number one thing that I think I learned from this trip, is that I'm definitely going to start downloading maps so that, the GPS always shows up. It always shows you where the your arrow of your person is, but if it doesn't load any roads or any trails, it's really not that much of a help. Except I knew eastward I would hit the road no matter what. South I would hit bare rocks no matter what. So anyway, I set up a camp, talked to the camera a little bit, and I'm keeping my cool at this point. It's pretty good. I just know that I need to get in that tent. I need to study that map a little bit. I need to figure out what's going on here. And I did. I got in there. I got on my GPS again, and it pops up the map. So I then know exactly where I'm at. I was actually about, I'd say, a half mile to 3/4 of a mile northeast or northwest of, my truck, or where I had parked at, which is the Bear Rocks trailhead, not the Bear Rocks trailhead. So I find where I'm at. I can see the trails on the map. I know which way I need to go. So that made me sleep a lot better, other than the fact that I didn't sleep hardly at all. I literally slept probably 2, maybe 3 hours that night. Just a little bit unnerving. It was a lot of just the anxiety of not knowing exactly, where I was, and mostly just not being where I'm supposed to be, wondering if the guys are wondering where I'm at, if anybody saw my truck over there and said, well, his truck's there, but where's he at? Because at this point, Hellman Dollar's coming in after me, so I figured he might see something. And it just was kind of, not kind of, it was a bad night. It was a rough night of sleep, not much at all. But I formulated a plan. I figured out exactly what way before I went to bed, which way I need to start heading in the morning if my GPS wouldn't load or whatnot. So I set my alarm 5:45. I want to be up before the sun. I want to have everything packed up, sitting in my chair, watching that sun come up so I can see it, first opportunity of light, exactly where I need to go. So I'm on and off dozing for no more than a half hour at a time. Finally fall asleep good to where I start dreaming at 5 o'clock a.m. So sleep right through my 5:45 alarm. In my dream, is actually funny. I'm third perspective, bird's eye view, looking for my tent, and I open my eyes and the sun's up. I pop up immediately, 6:05 a.m. By 6:20, 15 minutes flat, I am totally packed up and going. And mind you, the first thing in the morning when I unzip my tent, fog. Nothing but fog everywhere. I cannot see a damn thing. Didn't waste too much time thinking about it. Still packed up, put the stuff on, headed straight the way that I knew I needed to go. And I'm bushwhacking. I'm getting tore up again. It's just, I'm feeling optimistic at this point. I got all day. I'm going through worst case scenarios in my head the night before. I'm like, I got all day tomorrow, all day Sunday to get out of here if I really am lost. I'm not an idiot. I'm very good with, knowing my bearings and, orienteering off the sun and whatnot. It can happen to anybody, though. And really, it doesn't matter how good you are. These things happen and can happen to anybody. I crest over the hill, and I see just nothing but straight pine trees in front of me. And just at that moment, the fog kind of clears a little bit, and I can see the trailhead that I'm parked at. I can see all the cars parked up in a row. I can see it right there, but blocking me down the hill is just woodlands. And I debated for a minute, should I just beeline it straight for the trailhead? But I'm really glad I opted not to do that, because I know how dense Dolly Sods can be in the woods, and that could have been a really fatal mistake if I would have done that. So I thought, okay, I just need to stay up high. I need to start going either left or right to figure out where this little clearing in the pines where I went down and up the day before, so I can get back to the car. So I head left maybe a quarter mile or so, and it's just still nothing but trees. And then by then the fog rolls over again, and I cannot see the parking lot at all. So then I start heading somewhat southeast, and I run straight into a trail, a big, nice, established rocky trail. I'm like, okay, this is good. I immediately start heading east back towards the parking lot, because even though I was fairly convinced that this was bare rocks, I wanted to be 100% sure. So I start heading east back to the car. At some point, I can see, it goes up. I know it's a clearing. I know it's going to go up to that road. So I drop my pack in the middle of the trail, and I just start running. Probably a quarter mile, maybe half mile tops to the trailhead. I get up there, and I'm looking at the trailhead. It's a really crappy map. I was expecting something that says you are here. It was none of that. It didn't say anything about what trail it was. To the right, there's a big sign that says Red Creek. Now, I know Dolly Sods very, very well. I literally could draw the map from memory. I know that Red Creek Trailhead is nowhere near this. This is not even anywhere near Red Creek Trail. So why it says Red Creek, I just have no idea. But I assume it's just kind of an unmarked trail. It's just another I didn't know there was unmarked trails in Dolly Sods, but it's a possibility. So I run back down to my pack, and I just start running or walking the trail this way, because at the kiosk it did say it had some trail names with some mileage. It says Bear Rocks 5. So I assume 5 miles till Bear Rocks Trail. It said, Ravens Ridge, like 7 or whatever the number was. And so all these trails I'm familiar with and I know are in the area, it's got the mileage. So I know I can get there. I can figure out really where I'm at this point. So I get heading down the trail, do about 2 miles or so, and I come to a 4-way stop. And on my left, a sign that says Dobbin Grade. I'm like, okay, this is good. I know Dobbin Grade. This is Dobbin Grade Trail. And it also gives it says Beaver Dam Trail to the south, 0.7 miles. Now, when I was, not sure of what trail I was on, I assumed probably Beaver Dam Trail, which is the trailhead just south of Bear Rocks. I thought somehow I must have went over Bear Rocks and got on Beaver Dam Trail. And also past that, it had all these other trails. And the map just really wasn't making sense to me. I think now if I would have looked back at it, if I would have sat there longer and thought about it, I would have known that I was on Bear Rocks Trail. And it's funny that the day when I drove by, on that kiosk, on the very bottom of it, there's an engraved plaque that says Bear Rocks Trail. Now, this whole story is based upon being impatient and, being in a hurry. I got to the trail late the night before. I was in a hurry, so I didn't assess the situation. I should have walked down the road. I should have checked out to see that, that was the trail I needed, was down there, not the one I started on. When I got to that kiosk on Bear Rocks Trail the next day, I should have studied it more. I glanced over everything, didn't find what I was looking for, and went back. Well, okay, so anyway, I'm at this sign. I'm on Bear Rocks Trail, and I hear voices, and I give a couple yelps, and I yell a couple times, and I don't hear anything back. So I know it's not Adam and the gang, because if they heard somebody yelling, they would know it was me or somebody, and they would yell back. They'd probably yell back even if they didn't think it was me. I didn't hear anything back, so I'm pretty sure that that's not them. I don't know at that point which way to go exactly, but thinking I'm on Beaver Dam Trail, Bear Rocks is north of that, so I think I'm on Dobbin Grade right now. I need to go north on Dobbin Grade, and I will hit Bear Rocks Trail. So I just start going north, and it is terrible. I know Dobbin Grade's a bad trail, but this turned into pretty much off-road mudding path. It definitely looked like vehicles were on it. Just super deep, up to my knees in water. Trying to go around the water was just mucky, just almost pulling my shoes off. It was the worst part of any Dolly Sods hiking I've ever done. So I'm going and going, and then I come to another four-way stop that's in the video with no signage except for no trespassing, and the no trespassing signs then started on both sides of the road, and I thought, this is weird. So I checked the GPS, and it doesn't load the map or anything, and it pings me, and I am about a mile north of Dolly Sods Wilderness in general. I'm not even in the green anymore. I'm way above. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this either, but that morning when I started and all the fog and everything, and I got my GPS out, it wouldn't load. It would not load anything. No roads, no trails, nothing. I knew which way I needed to go because of the green and whatnot, because there's, it's all white, but the wilderness area is marked in green. So I knew which way I needed to go, but I wanted to follow my GPS in the morning right back to my truck to get, just a good fresh start. But anyway, so I'm on God knows what trail. I'm a mile north of Dolly Sods. I've just hiked for an hour. I was trying to get to their camp before 8 o'clock. It took me nearly an hour to find the trail that I had initially found, which was Bear Rocks, and now I'd hiked another hour in the wrong direction. At this point, I know that they're breaking camp. I'm not going to meet them at camp. So I got to get back there, and whatever way I go, I got to hustle because I got to get back to Dolly Sods. So I head back down. I get back to the intersection, and I hear the voices again. So I book it down Bear Rocks Trail, which I wasn't sure exactly what it was still at that point. And I found these guys, and I said, hey, can you guys help me? I need to know where I'm at. And they said, well, do you need a map? I said, well, I got a map. I just don't know where I am on it. And they showed me that I was at the Bear Rocks intersection of Dobbin Grade, Bear Rocks, right by the creek, right by all the campsites and stuff, and it made me feel a little bit better. They gave me a good heading. I then knew exactly where I was. I knew that if the guys had any sense at all, that they would be taking Raven Ridge down rather than Dobbin Grade, because it's just a terrible muddy mess. So I'm like, I need to go this way. Plus, on Bear Rocks up, maybe they didn't break camp yet. Maybe I can smell some fire. Maybe it's some sign that the guys are in front of me. So I go down Bear Rocks, I go down Raven Ridge, I take Upper Creek down, just booking, like no breaks at all, trying to catch up to these guys that are supposedly in front of me. I take my first break on Blackbird Knob Trail at the bottom of Upper Red Creek, and within 2 minutes, I hear voices. I get excited. I throw my pack on immediately and start heading west on Blackbird Knob, which is where I needed to go anyway to hit the Red Creek Trail to the south to get to Lion's Head, because even if I didn't meet these guys, we were meeting at Lion's Head, in the evening, and we were camping in the pines above Lion's Head that night. So worst case scenario, I got to hike by myself all day, but I will see everybody tonight. So I hear voices, I start booking, and I see a guy, and I don't know him. So my hopes and dreams are shot down at that point. And I say, hey, have you passed anybody today, a group of guys? And he said, no. He goes, I did hear some voices about 100 yards back from me. I'm like, okay, thank you. Just feeling, a little boost of energy there from that. And I walk probably no less than 50 feet. and I see Adam's white light AF backpack, and I hear his big loud mouth, and I let out a big of just relief, and I go, yes. And the guys, they didn't know what it was. They didn't even say anything at first. They didn't know what they were walking into, but man, I can't imagine the look on my face when I saw those guys just turning my day around, because I had just a hell of a night. I had already probably went like 5 or 6 miles that morning, and I hadn't hardly done any miles on the trail. I slept on a rock. My back was hurting. It actually really was debilitating. I thought about tapping several times during this whole time, during the night. During the next morning when I got back to that road, I thought about, should I just go get my pack and should I just call it? But I knew I would go home. I would feel just sad. I mean, it wouldn't have been good. I said, I got about 10 more miles left in me. And I know if I find these guys, it's going to be a great time. It's going to turn the trip around, and it's going to be a good memory rather than a bad memory. So anyway, I find them. And by the stroke of luck, I find them. They tell me we didn't camp on Bear Rocks. We camped on Blackbird Knob, from the Blackbird Knob trailhead that's on the other side of Dolly Sods. And he said, didn't you get the memo? I'm like, where was the memo? He said, in the group chat. He said Meerkat was sending maps of it. I said, I saw the maps, but they were just yellow lines and a bunch of satellite view trees. I go, all I heard was Bear Rocks trailhead and, Lion's Head the next day, and here's the maps for it. I didn't realize that, they had changed the trailhead that we were initially starting on. So the fact that I actually ran into these guys is just so ironic. And the irony of it is, if you think about it, if I didn't go out of the way and get lost the first night, I would have been scouring Bear Rocks and just would have been absolutely clueless as to why nobody was there. If I wouldn't have taken the 1.5 mile detour out and back that put me just hours behind, I would have been way in front of them, and I would have had to hike to Lion's Head the whole day by myself, just not really feeling good because I wanted to hang out with these guys. I didn't want to, when you go into a trip not expecting to be solo, you don't want to be solo. So just the fact that I found them by just a sheer stroke of luck is just amazing. Like, all my bad experiences in this trip actually helped me find them. If all this didn't happen, I would have hiked the entire time by myself. Because now, mind you, we're both parked on different sides of Dolly Sods, so even when we were at Lion's Head, we weren't going to hike together, and the next day we're going in 2 different directions. They said they had about 4 miles to go in one way, and I knew I had about 10 miles to go in the other. So finding them was just great. I got to actually do some hiking with my buddies. I got to meet Alex for the first time. It ended up being a great day. We found Lion's Head. We sat around the campfire, sat in my chair for like 6 hours, just gorging food. I've never enjoyed a fire in a campsite so much in my life. Slept like a baby that night, just a straight 7 hours. Yeah, so I get up the next morning, and mind you, this was supposed to be a totally rainy, nasty trip the whole time, and it just sprinkled and misted a little bit here and there. It rained during the nights, but who cares about that? It ended up being like just a gorgeous trip. We got a nice little bit of sun in the evening, and the next morning, I say my goodbyes. I set off on my way. Within a mile, it's just downpouring and pretty much rains the whole way out, so I didn't film on the good camera. I didn't want to take any chances getting it wet. The GoPro I had left on the night before, I knew it was dying, so I only got like 1 clip. I hiked my about 9.5 miles out. Had a good time. I got to see the eastern section of Blackbird Knob Trail, which was really, really cool. I really enjoyed myself, even in the rain, even though my hands were cold. So it turned out to be a really good, memorable trip that started out very sketchy. And I mean, I really kept my cool. During the time when it was getting dark and I'm kind of running around like an idiot, I kept my head on my shoulders. I know that, when you're lost, the thing you should do is stay put, but I wanted to gain as much ground as I could while I still had light. It's just, I think I went a little bit too long And so I'm glad I stopped when I did. Luckily for me, I had my phone. There's a lot of times I don't bring phones on trips, and I probably will never do that again after this. I will probably never not have a map pre-downloaded on my phone again, too, after this. So I really got lucky with this one. It really can happen to anybody, just being a backpacker and whatnot. This kind of thing happens, and it happens to the best of us. There's a lot of sports and things out there that are dangerous. You can break your arms and stuff. And backpacking, although we take it for granted how easy it is sometimes on these established trails and established campsites, it's very dangerous. If you get off the trail and you get turned around, it's very easy to do. And it's very easy to get lost for days on end and starve to death. I mean, that's the reality of backpacking. I brought this map, which was just a great comfort item. I laminated this because when does it not rain in Dolly Sods? So it was always accessible to me. And this and my phone and my compass and my watch, I was so happy I had those things. Although I knew where east was, I knew where south was, I knew I would eventually hit a trail or a road, it still was very, it was frightening, not gonna lie. But it all turned out good. I actually didn't even start editing the video yet. I just got off the trail yesterday, but I wanted to make this video while everything was still fresh in my mind, to let you guys know the true story behind this. It's just a crazy story, something that started out so scary and ended up okay. But learn from my mistakes. I hope it doesn't happen again. It's kind of, isn't it funny that I just put that video out, which were my 5 biggest backpacking fails, and people had even commented. Alex said, hope this weekend isn't number 6. And I wasn't super lost. It's not like I went 10 miles in the wrong direction, but I was, a mile out. I only made it about a half mile back, probably, maybe not even that. I couldn't figure out how to get back to my truck or get back to a trail initially. So it was just definitely a learning experience. I learned a lot from it. I hope you guys can learn from it too. Don't make my mistake. And yeah, other than that, great trip though. Great trip. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm actually getting ready to film my post-hike gear video. I'm going to go over not a traditional gear loadout video, but more of a what gear worked, what gear didn't work, what I did differently for this trip. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting video, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to see me get lost again in the future. Thumbs up if you don't want to see me get lost. Thumbs down if you do. But yeah, that'll do for this video. Subscribe for more. We'll see you on the next one. It's really hard to find the trail. Really kind of overgrown and really soggy. Sunset's looking good up here. Feels good to be out today.